Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show.
Hey, Mike, do you want me to make an announcement? Mike has been hammering on
one sentence.
Oh boy. Free access to the community, including lead generator, is going away. How's that? How's that sentence?
Hallelujah. Get rid of the freeloader.
We are experiencing about, should I stop, Mike?
No, you did it. Now let's see if there's any questions.
Any questions? Paul Medig. Excellent. We're putting the band back together. Hey, Paul. David, it's great to see you, man.
Paul needs lots of leads. He'll definitely take advantage of your opportunity, Mike. If I can get lead generation, wow. Hey, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, we're going to, well, more to follow. Watch for communications very shortly. So things are, the community's growing. It's an exciting time. And
looking forward to seeing you
for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah. Basically going forward, it's going to be $99 a month for people that just want to be involved in the community and not be a Clarity subscriber. Correct?
Yeah, that's right, Mike.
There you go.
$99 a month includes access to the soon to be renamed lead generator.
That's what I'm pointing out.
Which is being used to good effect. It is simply not, it does not, and nothing does live up to its namesake because we have all become so jaded. Mike, something that you brought up, Mike, this morning that I think is fascinating, I think it'd be a great topic to start with, is the danger of client fatigue. You want to take that one away, Mike?
So I'm always available for pithy comments. For collaboration. So this has been a great year for me, a lot of business, a lot of good collaboration. But there's also been a tremendous amount of expense associated with ineffective collaboration, right? And one of the greatest sources of inefficiency in collaboration within the exit planning community and within the Growth Drive community for me has been people that use subpar software. And it's been a real problem because here's what happens. Say you're using brand X, generic software from companies in the Northeast. How is that?
That just merged with somebody else
that have screwed multiple people. Anyways, say you're using that software and you convince your client as a financial advisor, as a attorney, as a CPA, who's not fully committed to taking somebody all the way through the process, a growth process, right? You're just trying basically to get an engagement for your product or service, but you really don't want to be on the business growth side. You convince that person, you charge them $250 or whatever, you take them through an investment of time and money, and you tell them that you now can give them a opinion of value if you are thinking about it. And most of the time you're not. So you say it's a valuation. You give them a number, you tell them that now you've got their gaps and this is exactly what they need to do. That's fine, right? Business owner agrees to it. Business owners, most of them are overwhelmed, got too much going on. You discover that you're actually way over your skis on this and you don't have the capability to really drive these different gaps. And you decide you need to bring in another person. Since you are involved in this community or this software that is not as nice as ours, all of a sudden you're bringing in somebody who's a professional, whether they're a growth driver or they're with another organization, with a more expensive, more comprehensive software product that the business owner needs to invest all the time going through another assessment. B, they need to pay the higher expense associated with a real consultant doing discovery and all the associated time. And what I've noticed is clients get tired of that. They've only got so much bandwidth that they're going to devote to consulting or process improvement in this regard. And I think it's a real problem. I've seen it go bad for a client of mine. I managed to save the relationship, but bringing in another piece of software ended up not being good for the client, not good for me. And the other consultant ended up getting fired, and we're back to my software.
Your software being
Period. Right. And so I just wanted to say that because a lot of times we don't think about the fact that the average business owner that we all want to work with and for whatever we do, that person's got 6 or 7 different expense projects going on at a given time, right? They've got a real estate associated process, multi-year. They've got equipment purchasing processes. Think about all the different things they're doing. And if we don't take into account their level of current fatigue, I wish Tim Rhodey could be here, but he's on vacation in Park City, right? But if we don't take into account the fatigue that owners experience in the sales process, we doom ourselves for a longer sales process, B, a more dangerous sales process because we're only getting fragments of their attention, and C, mistakes in collaboration, AKA car wrecks. How's that for a starter, George?
I totally agree. And it's funny when Mike and I were discussing this morning about a specific case, right? Where the wealth advisor is trying to take in, doesn't matter, a DCF calculation of value. We'll leave that there. I was talking, Larry, your name came up because I was talking about we started talking about the emotion when we think we need to have a client, not client centric, but a client first person singular perspective. And your client is, then shoot me down if you think I'm wrong, but your client is working incredibly hard. They are under not insignificant stress. They tend to be emotionally strongly focused on their strategic intent. And when we show up and we say, we can help you, and then they say, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you to help me. And we show up with a this and a that, and you need to meet this guy. Oh my gosh, I know, but we have to do it again. Imagine the first person singular, your client's user experience of you. And Larry, the emotion is right there, right at the surface, and often actually on the bleeding edge of the spear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we forget that. And I think we forget what you said earlier, Mike, which is really putting ourselves in the shoes of our prospects that might be a client or our current clients and clients we've had for years. And sometimes we just forget that and we can overwhelm them, or I can, in forgetting where they're at. And it's not just their business, it's their personal lives that play into all this. It's one thing for many of them. So we have to be cautious on one end, but yet the value, and here's where I thought you were also going, Mike, is the value we gave them in 2025 doesn't mean it's valuable in 2026. And I always am concerned about that. I learned this from a gentleman who used to be CEO of Lazy Boy Furniture, who's been a consultant. He runs Vistage Groups, really a superstar. His favorite client left him. And he said to the client, "You're my favorite. Why are you leaving me?" And the client said, "Because you no longer challenge me." And that was like a wake-up call. So we always have to be bringing value on one end, and sometimes that's challenging. But on the other end, we have to say, where's the emotional tenor at with my client right now? Am I overloading or am I helping? How can I have that? Sometimes we have to have that conversation to get back to the business conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I'm impressed right now, just switching and seeing what we have 12 of us on this call right now.
12, dirty dozen.
That's
it's outstanding. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, thank you, all of you. Teresa, great to see you. Joe, great to see you. David is back. Always great to see you, man. I know that Eric has his camera off, but Eric's on the call. So good morning to everyone. And it's great to see everyone. So we started taking the conversation in a direction. Is there anything what's on your minds, guys? Thank you, Larry.
For me,
Okay.
I had a question for everyone, given that we've just finished the first couple of days of the new year. Anybody close their books? Anybody can point to real world statistics that they had a good year? Or is it like our clients? Well, I got cash in the bank.
I can tell you that our bookkeepers have closed our books.
Great.
And we had a good year, and our plan for this year is really strong and looks, guys, I can't talk about it, but there's some really great things that I'm doing for you, not to software development. You know, how do we bring real opportunities into the community? And that is in
Yeah.
the
So
stay tuned.
I'll tell you,
David?
Paul, I had a good year, Paul. One of the best I've had since my son was born. It was a really good year. Books were closed on it. However, it was a year that I don't want to repeat. Right. So I made money, but some harsh truths about how to make money necessitated some big pivots, you know, at the end of the third quarter and for the fourth quarter. And I'm just now starting to get ready to roll again. So, but
You
yeah,
made a change. When was that, Mike? Was that September, October? We had a conversation.
it was when I was coming back from the last week of August. You and I talked about it, and I just
Okay.
had this crushing level of fatigue accompanying the highest monthly retainer I've ever had, like cumulative retainer amount I've ever had. And I just realized that I had built a business where my wife would be able to come back home into the house and help with my son and improve the quality of life of our family, but I wouldn't be home to enjoy it. And so I then had to, like, which I think is truer than not, I had to reimagine what is success for me and what's really important. And I was still dealing with that when we were all at the summit. I was still dealing with that depression and that fatigue. But it kind of came through, George, after the summit. You and I got together the week after and really started working on it. And Tim Rhodey was a huge part of that, and Andy Weaver.
Yep.
So yeah, no, it was a good year, Paul, but it was good, and I didn't like it.
I can remember going into 2025 how scared I was because I'd lost a couple of clients, and then magically in January I got a client, and that carried me through, and then I got another client in October and another client in October, so things are looking good right now. I was surprised when I closed my books because a couple of years ago I had lots of cash, and I thought I needed to get rid of it, so I bought a company car. But then when the company car became available 6 months later, I didn't have the cash, and so I'd gotten rid of the profits and the cash, but then I had to borrow and finance the company car. And when I closed the books this time, I went, okay, I thought I'd done a good job of handling it and stuff, and I got rid of the cash, but I had too many profits that are going to carry over into my personal stuff. So I may be thankful for the one big beautiful bill that might cut my taxes a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm just, some of the things you said, Mike, we're guilty of being the small, medium business people that we are trying to say we're going to help because we're doing the same thing as they are. We're watching our cash to see if we're okay. We're doing this and that. And, we have to realize that we are people.
Yeah, 100%, Paul. And congratulations on having a good year. I'm really happy for you, man. Anything I can do to help, I'm here. And you and I talk pretty often. I started at the bottom of the hour talking about our community, and Larry has seen, who else have I shared it with? So we're about to publish a blog post about a maker versus taker, Tim Rhodey, a maker versus taker vision statement. And I'm inspired by you guys and our being a community of net givers. And, Viz, all of us on this call sharing personal stories or sharing professional conversations as well. And Mike,
Just remember, net givers are always systematic and purposeful about it. It's not an aspirational statement. It is a system-based result.
yeah, there are 2 blog articles I would say they're coming. There's one this week. It's the maker versus taker vision statement. Larry, thank you for your comments. I will fine tune the intro. And I'll explain it a little further here. And then next week, we're publishing the race pace leadership, and the concept of race pace leadership, tempo. And so I'll leave that to the side right now, but maker versus taker, we talk about being givers and not takers. And you know that I have a strong personal bias against takers. I don't take action, but I tend not to try to,
George, it was only one bad referral. It was only one bad referral.
It wasn't a bad referral. It's not a bad referral. Not at all. And that's an awareness thing. People can be educated about, maybe it would be better for me if I gave as well as received, and giving and receiving are very related. So maker versus taker, I was researching, I don't remember what the hell I was researching, and I came across Elon Musk's maker versus taker philosophy. I'm like, oh, well, that's intriguing. That sounds familiar. So I started digging into that, and Elon Musk he views makers as people who deliver more value than they extract from the market, and takers are people who and in his world, and I've never talked to the man, but it seems to be this kind of, if you think about it as entrepreneurs versus government bureaucrats, right? The government doesn't create much value. They do, they're necessary, but they don't create much value. Where entrepreneurs create a ton of value. And when we apply that, when we kind of overlay that with the giver versus taker, and being a community of net givers, I started thinking about vision statements and how do we craft maker vision statements? How do we help our clients create businesses? You guys know this, right? Anyone who's read my book, businesses are the engines for the pursuit of happiness. Businesses, private businesses, how we democratize wealth, not by taking wealth and redistributing it, but by creating more, right? Immortal businesses, paying people what the market will bear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that led me to start working. And, I can't help myself. I started typing, actually dictating. I have a plot on the way, dictating an article, which is what I ended up. And then I used Claire to convert that article into a worksheet, right? A process. If you sit down with a client, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The warmth of collectivism. Thank you. Good luck with that. Anyhow, so this maker versus taker, and we see that playing out here. We have 12 or maybe 13 now people on this call. All of you are here to share. We're also here to learn. That's fair, but here to share. And I just want to highlight that article that's coming out and to say thank you. Thank you. We attract givers. We attract makers. And if we can help our clients adopt a maker vision, the data is in, and I did research. The data is very, very clear, and I will add the Clarity Analytics data on this point to the article. It's the Clarity proves this out, or
Hey, George,
supports the thesis. Mike,
George, without names, right?
yes,
But like one of the ways that people don't often understand their takers, and this applies within Growth Drive, especially when you think about like financial advisors and why they don't refer. And the reason they don't refer is because they look at everyone else as a taker,
as risk.
Right? Yeah. Everyone else is telling them, hey, if you introduce us to your multimillionaire business owner client, I'm going to do a great job. And down the road, you're going to get a bunch of benefit because I'm going to raise the end cash sale. So they get to experience all the risk and none of the reward, while you get all the reward and none of the risk. Well, there's other ways this works out. So, George and I do strategic introductions back and forth frequently, and we're looking multi-year processes. And George was introduced to somebody face to face at a recent event I did. It looked like there potentially might be some synergy, but at the end of the day, someone could be a taker and not be malignant.
That's right. But that's in the article. It's like there's no judgment here. Yeah.
Well, there is. Well, that's what I was being nice. I judge the hell out of those people, right? Because if the end result is increased risk with no guaranteed ROI, I don't think that's good, right? And so, like, this particular relationship saw tremendous benefit through George being exposed to all of us, right? They were like, wow, like, and unfortunately, and this is a good person, but their vision was, hey, George,
yeah,
I'm really going to help you out and all these other growth drivers by them hiring me to do this service, which is then going to get them more business. And George, to his credit, wrote one of the best emails I've ever seen back, explaining why that wasn't within the Growth Drive ethos and social, not only the social contract, but George's personal social contract. And that's one of the risks is sometimes you can wreck the car and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and one of the closing lines, thank you for the compliment on the email. One of the closing lines is equity demands that I honor the commitment of time and treasure that each of you make to this community. And that I give you sort of right of first when there are opportunities, engagement opportunities being brought into the community. And Mike, can I go on a little bit of a tear? Because this is a topic, Mike, I would just disclaimer, the opinions being expressed are my own and not to be imputed to anyone else on this call. So I had a little verbal tantrum because one of you shared a reaction of a wealth advisor, and we see this play out in the market. The wealth advisor would not introduce and this is a common behavior, right? But remember my 42-2? This is a common fear among wealth advisors that if they invite you in, you're going to gick up their relationship with the client. Because historically, business coaches and advisors who are not following a methodology and process run amok in the client. So the wealth advisor says, sure, I'm going to introduce you. You're going to increase profits, increase value, or what have you. And we just run amok and we forget that it is not our client. I mean, anyone who's been through C3D, Rick, you just heard about this. So now the wealth advisor, now what is the result? The result is that a wealth advisor is not introducing someone who could benefit their client, create a business with high strategic capacity that is more likely to successfully complete whatever exit the client wants, including the oil well, right? Because the wealth advisor is worried about the impact that introduction will have on them, which is not a maker philosophy. And we have two guys, we're breaking through that wall. But and that was the tantrum that kind of led to this longer conversation. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And it's not nefarious, right? The wealth advisor is not being evil. They haven't really thought it through, but I've talked for a long time about the small f fiduciary. And I believe that small f fiduciary, the wealth advisor may not be towing the line.
Well, the problem is you got to remember the other software companies out there, other consultants out there that are ravaging the larger community. So I have unique insight into Big 10, right? And so the wealth advisors aren't seeing a lot of success stories from people like us because there aren't a lot of people like us, right? They're not seeing it. What they're seeing is what, like if you ever driven through the Bronx, well, it's been a while, but I remember being told my entire life, Ed, hey, when you drive through the Bronx, you're going to see a burning car. Well, you know what? That's true. That's actually true because the 2 times I've driven through the Bronx, there's always been a burning car. I shit you not, right? But real deal, we have to remember, and this is, I push back on George about this, is like that wealth advisor from my position is completely justified because they're a big F fiduciary and they are legally accountable, putatively legally accountable for any advice they give. And so when they look at an industry, which quite frankly, below the big level account, big consulting firms, an industry that's rife with bad behavior, why should they?
And not nefarious behavior, well-intentioned, but
no, I would argue that there's more nefarious going on now, as like there's been a gold rush in the exit planning community where you've got consolidation, M&A goes everywhere, right, Paul? M&A goes everywhere. And when you have M&A with consultants, then all of a sudden you've got to have a certain amount of client acquisition. You have to have a certain amount of deal flow and things like that.
Yeah, and David can speak to that. Yeah,
and the number one problem is the bad valuations that down the road screw the advisor. I have had way too many conversations in the past year with people that have had really adverse outcomes, losing 6 figures per year as a result of a bad exit planner.
Yeah, can I just jump in?
Fire away, man.
Yeah, these are all good comments, and I think I have seen Canada's a little bit behind the U.S. in terms of exit planning and adoption of these type of things, but I am seeing more of it here. And you're right. Like, I mean, if you just got somebody who's just using the software and doesn't really understand it, that's the problem, right? Because you've got a great tool, but you don't really know how to use it. So it's like you're like a carpenter with or you're like a random person with a hammer, but you're trying to do advanced carpentry. Like, not a good example, but you get what I mean. And I think obviously the Growth Drive community is not part of that. I would imagine most people here, I think, are very serious about what they're doing, because I don't think you would be here. I think you would be going to something else. I think we're all attracted to this because we like the software, we like George's vision, but I think as being a professional, the software is a tool. At the end of the day, being able to really understand your client and understand what their problems are. Because every time I deal with a client, problem A, B, and C, for one client, problem A may be the biggest problem. And for somebody else, problem D is the biggest problem. And they don't necessarily care about A right now. Now maybe they should care about A, and maybe you have to convince them. But the point is, when you deal with people, they care about what they care about, and you have to do, have to sort of figure out, well, what do they care about? What's really holding them back? And then, maybe you can use a project to kind of, introduce them to some other things that they should think about. And I think, so I've been kind of, a little bit out of this community for a while, just because I was kind of preoccupied with, getting into M&A stuff. But, I'd like to spend some more time here this year, because I still think it's relevant. And I still think, every time I approach a client, if you're not selling today, then you're an exit planning client. That's the way I look at it, because I don't know if you're ready to sell today. I had somebody talking to just in December who, is doing interviews for business brokers or whatever. And it's like, well, and I'm trying to turn that around and say, well, why don't we talk about it, from an educational perspective, and try to see, like, how ready you are, like, what, and one of the important things is, why do you want to sell? So I think dealing with I deal with a lot of financial planners. We have CFPs up in Canada too. And I think those are the best people, because they tend to be holistic in approach. So I would just say, I mean, you're going to get people who just aren't naturally going to be receptive, but I would reach out to as many as you can, start conversations with them, help them understand what it is that you do, why it's important. And I think at the end of the day, like, how do you differentiate yourself from somebody who just, subscribes to software and doesn't really get it? I mean, it's just the way you talk. You do some educational things together, maybe do some presentations together. I think, once you do a few of those things, then maybe that trust factor starts to grow. I mean, there's no magic bullet to any of this networking stuff. You just have to kind of, like, figure out which ones are actually really interested in working with you, and then try to nurture those relationships.
100%.
Yeah.
And we're both in the education, giving business. They are, because they have a lot of stuff to talk to their clients about, and we have a different specialties.
The big thing I would say to tag on to what David said is if you're approaching a financial advisor expecting them to produce multiple referrals for you with no systematic way that you can describe to them and show them that they're going to get clients as a result of being in your network, you're a taker. Okay. I'm just pointing, like,
that brings it full circle.
If you're not referring back to the financial planners, it's because you chose not to.
That was one of our earliest conversations, Mike, and you basically flipped me the bird and said, "The hell with that, you're wrong."
If you're not referring back to the financial advisors that you want referrals from, you're a taker, and that's why you're not getting them.
I'll just give a very high level process, and I know you guys all know this. You're sitting with a client or a prospect. You do clarity level 1. I would encourage you to also complete equity value planner. You ask them, do you have a wealth advisor? Yes. Great. Do you mind if I show them the equity value planner? No, I don't. Boom. You go to that wealth advisor and you say, hey man, I was working with Jane. Here is the EVP. I generate this for all my clients. Would you like me to talk to them? Barry, bye.
Yeah.
2, if they say, no, I don't, you now have an EVP that you can take to your COI and say, hey, and you can say, hey, do you mind if I show this to a wealth advisor? They might want to have lunch with you. It's free. You don't know what you're going to learn, et cetera. So you're by using clarity level 1, you're educating the client about current and potential value, right? You are also doing the EVP. What the heck does this thing need to be to fund my lifestyle? And now you have opened the door to take referrals to a wealth advisor. And how
That's a
do you
good
think
thing.
that wealth advisor is going to feel? And
That's
never
really good.
forget, guys, protect value surfaces. It is the link to owner-based planning. It surfaces advanced planning and sophisticated insurance opportunities at the front end of the engagement. So you get the wealth advisor out of the wait and benefit later into the I can help my client. This is very valuable for the client. Small investment, high ROI at the front end of the engagement. Okay, I'm done.
Hey, George, one big thing, and I really would like Eric's opinion on this because I know he does stuff like this. So, Eric, I'm calling you on the carpet in a good way because I know you do this. Like, are you building a network that brings you referrals, or are you bringing a network that brings referrals to your referral sources? I bet most of you have the former and not the latter. Eric, however, does special events. I know because I get invited, I can't come. I'm pissed off, but he does special events for his clients and his network. And these events I know generate referrals, right, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we've done for a long time is put our best COIs, our prospecting COIs, and some clients all in the same room and introduce them to each other. Um, and we have a 3-hour event with an open bar and appetizers, and they're all happy because they're getting drinks and fed and all that. But we stop it just for 5 minutes and say, hey guys, we get our referrals. We live on referrals. If you're one of the people who refer to us, thank you. Right. If you're not referring to us, look around the room. This is who refers to us. Right. So we can demonstrate our referral network to them in the room. And it's an excellent way, Mike, to your point, of not only do we get something out of it, but we're giving a lot. As a matter of fact, one of the questions I had for our team is, are we getting enough out of it, or are all the people coming getting more out of it because we're introducing them to each other and we're not getting as much as we want? Are there things we need to do to turn the knob so that it makes sure that we get the benefit that we want out of it as well?
Yeah, to your credit, Eric, like you're heavily involved in community organizations. You and your team are doing stuff in the community, and you've got a network that allows you to surface opportunities for your COIs without too much effort, and then B, give you strategic opportunities to do high value introductions. It's one of the things I respect the most about how you do it.
Yeah, you're right, Mike, and I'll concede that took years and years of work, right? And that didn't happen overnight. I didn't just decide yesterday that I was going to do that, and all of a sudden you have that network. I spent years building that network of investing in people, giving a lot, giving back to the community, serving on boards, serving in organizations, building relationships with people. It's all of that is building relationships. And those relationships are now paying off. Our phone rings more, I always say in the first 3 to 5 years, I made it a point to go to 3 events a week, like after hours, right? Some of them would happen during the day, but a lot of them were evening kind of things, right? And so I was out 3 times a week going to things. Now I don't go to it nearly as many events. I go to a lot, but not nearly as many. And I'm not working as hard outbound, and the phone is ringing because I built all those relationships.
Yeah, just make sure that you guys have got a giving system. You know what I mean? Like build it. Don't just build a network that feeds you. Build your network so that you can feed other people. And that's the only way you scale referrals past surprise.
Maker.
Yeah.
Give it. Yep. And it works, right?
It always has. Thousands of years.
Can I borrow your car? That was great. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, David. Thanks, everyone. Very cool. The CEO workshop marketing event is something that I think deserves more attention. I haven't helped someone. I'm going down in February. I'm helping one of your colleagues put one on, and I'm available. I'm not free, but I am available to come and help design and put on a CEO workshop, you don't really need me. It is very straightforward. Is everyone familiar with the CEO workshop marketing event? Yes. Okay, good. It's using Clarity Level 1 with a room full of CEOs.
It's a better steak dinner.
It is a much better steak dinner.
I
It's
don't
actually
know if
best
you
as-
saw it, George, but there were at least 2 or 3 heads that wagged left and right rather than
Oh, I did not see that. Okay, thank you, Paul. I'll give a 30,000 footer. Imagine you're working with a wealth. We'll just pick on wealth advisors again. We're an accounting firm. They have a Rolodex of clients. They are trying to increase their reach and relevance with those clients. You collaborate with them. Now, you need to be prepared to bring a few people into the room yourself, right? Be a giver. But they have the Rolodex. And you curate a room full of CEOs. I will give you the criteria, but you curate it so there's no competitors. We'll keep that at the high level. And then you're going to use Clarity Level 1 with those CEOs. And man, these are so effective. It is a lead pipe cinch. The hard work, if you put it on in a bona fide way. So you're going to use Clarity Level 1 with the room. You walk through the questions. We can go in a couple of different directions. Imagine using the compare function to say, okay, well, in this room, here's what we're seeing. And you start workshopping, very high level. We don't want to overwhelm people. We're workshopping. In a longer version, you could also complete. Now you turn it over the mic over to the wealth advisor, and they walk the participants through the equity value planning module. And now imagine that you're doing this at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Do it in the morning because people will not blow you off, right? They haven't got caught up in the whirlwind. That's where we see the highest compliance. Compliance meaning people say they're going to come and they come. And I guarantee if you do this in a bona fide way, you will win another engagement. To illustrate, one of the biggest I've participated in was in Philadelphia. It was put on by an M&A firm, and of the 26, it's been a long time, 26 people in the room, they got 20. Yeah, please contact me about what we learned today.
So, hey, George.
Yeah,
so
man.
The problem with the way you presented that is it's against can I borrow your car, right? And so
Why is it against it?
because the whole focus is on the wealth advisor getting you a client. You're going to land a client. So
Oh, no.
it's-
That's why I said, well, Mike, I agree.
yeah,
What we're discovering, though, is
hold
opportunities
on.
for the wealth advisor to provide products and services to
Yeah.
increase their brand awareness with the client. And you
If you're-
need to bring several people to the room.
Yeah, if you're going
I
to do
mean,
it
that's-
correctly, it shouldn't be about you getting a client as a result of it.
David, great to see.
Yeah, excellent. Right. It should be, hey, we're going to do this for you. That's going to provide value, right, to your clients. And we are going to identify immediate opportunities for revenue for you with some of your clients and prospects, right? You should be doing this as a giving tool,
100%.
not them bringing owners. Like, but I'm just saying is like, like I understand where your heart is on this, but when people look at that, the way that if you're going to do it with a wealth advisor, you've got to number one, they got to understand clarity, and they have to understand those insurance gaps and those protection gaps that get discovered in Clarity Level 1, which is why you put them in there. And then they have to see this. Hey, this is a tremendous opportunity because most of these business owners are underinsured. I have never ever sat in front of a business owner doing Clarity, and I'm not licensed. I've never done one where the person was appropriately insured or even aware of insurance risk, right? And
Mike, to your point, you did this with an RIA, with the RIA, and the guy sitting at the head of the table. What was his reaction?
Well, I've done it with UBS. I've done it with wirehouses. I've done it with independents. I've done it with insurance broker dealers, right? This stuff works. But the number one reason you do this is to develop immediate revenue opportunities for the wealth advisor.
Yeah.
And if you deciding to give has got to be, how can I help you now? Right? And education does not help them now. Education does not help them now. Identifying opportunities that they haven't been able to achieve because the business owner's like, what the hell do you know about decentralization of my business? I'm just telling you that's how you have to approach it. If you approach it that way, you will get clients.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep. You know, yeah, and that's you make a fabulous point, Mike. Thank you, and that is precisely why the protect value module exists.
Yeah. If you're doing protect value, you can show the financial advisor how you're going to, every time they refer you, uncover opportunity for them. Because here's a news flash. You ready? A lot of the successful business owners that you want to sell to possess disability insurance. At least 50% of those policies were bought when the business owner wasn't making as much money as they are right now. And those policies need to be updated or canceled. Right. And so, like, and this is the stuff that these owners don't get to, right? Because they're like, hey, wealth advisor, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, I'm just telling you, like, that protect value, that is designed so that you can explicitly give back to the wealth advisor when they refer you, without the old, hey, after I've gotten them to increase their EBITDA, you'll get a benefit 3 to 5 years from now, if they still work with you.
Yeah. Hey guys, hard to believe we have about 10 minutes. 14. Joe, jump in, man.
Can I put something together here for us, just to what I heard, and maybe you can correct me? Okay, so you see in that chart, so we look at this, and really the taker versus the maker, right? I just looked it up online as you were talking. But system driven, what you talked about, Mike, is having a system of value compounding on each other. So like building upon each other. And then the leadership depth. What is a leadership depth? Is that your
Yeah, we want an effective senior leadership team so that the business can run smoothly in the CEO's absence.
Okay. And then the freedom and mission. So the freedom that as a maker centered freedom mission, you have a true mission for where you're going, and that's gonna, like, this relationship's going somewhere. We've figured out what the mission, and in the financial planner relationship, our mission is to, agree that this is what our outcome is. Is that what we're trying to draw from this relationship? And to be clear, if we have those things, then we're avoiding the taker, owner dependent, cash extraction, hero culture, no succession, burnout. And if your business collapses without you, you're a maker. That's the problem.
Well, business collapses, you're a taker if the business collapses around you.
You're
right?
what?
If the business collapses around you, you're the taker.
You're a taker, yeah.
Not the maker.
Yeah.
That's what I was confused on. And I looked, a chat.
Don't trust ChatGPT. You always got to go.
That's what I got a little confused with. Okay,
Yeah.
so
I had it go. I had chat go completely sideways yesterday. By the way. Yeah.
Dude,
so the
it'll make
so
sense.
analogy is you're in a group of people and you have clients and you give away football tickets. All right, and I don't want to give away my football tickets the first ask. Right, I want to be able to stretch that out. So I would be able to get like 3 or 4, like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Wouldn't you like to, you and your family or whatever, do a gift especially for the kids, do something for the kids. And it's just like that's high marks, right? But I typically want to be able to do is in that group, what you want to be able to say, how do I get tickets to give? And then how do I, without buying them, and then how do I create this exchange where it's like freely, not expecting any return, but freely offering up, because we're about ready to do a BEI chapter here locally. And I think we need to set that stage within the partners to kind of say, this is the ebb and flows of the exchange. If we want to be net maker centered or in his chapter, than we are necessarily want to be a taker.
100%, Joe. Love that.
But that's a
100.
cultural thing. You have to kind of like continue to come back to it and remind people because I'm recruiting and I both feel will be a really good merger attorney in town, and he's a little bit on the edge about joining or not joining. And I have 3 other people. If he joins, the other 2 will follow. So you have these magnets related to that circle. So if you're putting together that team, you kind of understand who are the people that are actually can be magnets for you, and they work in a similar well. So there's really probably a kind of a simple assessment, and I really understand, could they be a growth opportunity for you? And them likewise, or are they just they don't quite understand it? So I don't know, Mike. You probably have some sort of a quick assessment tool related to that.
I would counsel against trying to use this as an analog, Joe. I think this is an analog. I don't know why I'm holding my head. I think that's an analog. I think you're spot on. And as a software guy, maybe I'm arguing against interest, but I think that's an analog conversation. So you might riff on the growth conversation to discover if the person, and if they're not yet a maker, sometimes it's a matter of educating people. Like Mike teaches people about moving from taking to giving and the power of giving. And it can simply be an analog conversation about the culture of the group, rather than relying on software or a GPT to have that conversation for us. Does that make sense? And now, Mike, you can shoot me down, but
No. Like, I mean, the first thing you have to realize is the only thing that really counts in personal networking is whether that person's actually going to be a giver.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that's why we've got the macro system and the micro system in my book, which is just a reflection of reality. There's a lot of people that will give you a surprise referral every now and then, and that's great, but you cannot allocate a lot of resources to them, time, money, and energy with any predictable success, right? So you need to put your engineer brain on and identify who are the key people that are actually givers and makers, right? That will reciprocate. And like, I get most of my business from 4 or 5 relationships, right? I get a lot of other opportunities, but I can only predictably get that result. And so that was my point is, and this is an analog activity. You have to prioritize live communication with other human beings.
yeah. 100%. Joe, that was a great point. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Hey guys, would it be okay with you if we did a lightning round of, 30 seconds each of a key takeaway from today? That be okay?
I'll throw something in. So I've been having trouble with giver versus maker because the maker movement is a whole different thing for me in manufacturing and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I was talking with a business owner yesterday, needs a salesperson. He asked me, what are the 2 most important things you'd look for in a salesperson? I said, 1, he's got to be hungry for something, whether it's ego or money or whatever it is. He's got to be hungry and a hunter. And secondly, servant leadership, which is more in the area of a giver because he wants to look for whatever the other person could need.
100%, man. I love
Yes.
that. Thank you.
I look
Who
for
are you going to
Eagle
toss it
Scouts.
to, Paul?
Pardon?
Who are you going to toss it to?
Oh, Rick's been really quiet here and thoughtful in his head, so he took something in.
The whole conversation of taker versus giver has got me thinking quite a bit, and I need to talk to Mr. Mike Garrison a little bit more as I get ready to do my first client. I have already scheduled time to present with their wealth advisors.
Great.
I gotta say, I think I'm getting some of the driving the car, giving the car, bring the car back analogy good. Because when Mike was talking about, all right, we're going to go in there, we're going to do clarity level 1, and they're going to see where their risk is. My first thought was, oh no, am I going to be then giving them an insurance person they should go talk to? And it was like, God, I don't want to be labeled somebody that's trying to sell ancillary services. So I understand where you guys are going at, and I understand that it's going to take clarity to be careful that we have the right people in the network so that we never recommend somebody that's going to wreck the car.
Yeah. Love that.
Even more important, have a system for what do you do after an accident.
Okay.
Who are you going to toss it to, Rick? Thank you.
How about Jemiah Battle?
Mr. Battle.
I'll take it. Man, I got a lot of value out of this. Just the whole maker taker analogy. I know from our previous conversation with Mike in particular is in engaging with, especially in financial advisors, wealth advisors, CPAs, but especially that world, what's the immediate, not the long-term value, but what's the immediate value or win, particularly financially, that they can see from partnering with me. But one of my biggest takeaways from today, is a question that Mike posed to it. Am I building a network that brings referral to my referral network? So just being intentional on those levels, even with the network I'm building, is consciously thinking of ways that, whether it's a workshop, whether it's an engagement, that how can my network, how can this benefit my network? And it don't have to be, like you said, 4 or 5 people that's actually bringing me referrals. I'm constantly thinking about, I don't know where I'm looking for, but optimizing every engagement in that to make sure that it's always a win-win for them, and especially financial wealth advisors, because other than us, they're going to have the long-term relationship, during, before, after, whatever exit happens. They're one of the longest running relationships, and probably we are too. So really making sure that we put them first and getting them those immediate wins, and not just the long-term, stuff.
100%, Jemiah. Thank you. Because the wealth advisor's relationship with the client is immortal. It transcends. So our relationship typically ends at a transaction or before. The wealth advisor typically has an immortal relationship that actually kicks into turbo, into high gear after the transaction. You make a fantastic point, Jemiah. Thank you. Always great comments. Thanks, man. Who are you going to toss it to, Jemiah?
Let me see here. I'm gonna toss it to Mr. Rick Owen.
Hey, Jemai.
Hey.
I'm reminded by all the comments, when we put our room together, that 3 times a year, we go out of our way to put more givers in the room than takers. And the reason we do that is, if you have a room full of givers, everybody goes home with something. Givers give and everybody else has something. When you have a room full of takers, everybody's standing there with their hand out waiting for somebody to give them something. And we get more compliments on how great our room is, how much people come in and they're like, they're surprised at how engaging everybody is in the room, because you got a bunch of givers. You walk in and they want to hear what you have to say. And so just think about that, guys. Do you want to walk into a room full of takers, or do you want to walk into a room full of givers? Right.
Let me think about it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a tough call, but
Yes. Thank you. Make Teresa say something.
Of course, I'm laughing the whole time because of snarky personalities on this call. Happy 2026 to all. I like the taker versus giver. So I have 2 primary targets this year. And so it's very easy to apply Growth Drive to it. I've just not cracked the code yet on how to implement the Growth Drive system into some of the I want them to purchase it, right? I want them to use it. I want them to be part of it. So I'm just slowing down that strategy and pausing on that just a little bit. So I'm excited though, but I did go full time with one of a client.
Good
Was
for you.
going to be client. So they actually asked me to come on full time as a vice president, to be strategically working for them. It's in 2 primary areas. One is the offices of insurance. So it is a producer role for insurance and ancillary services, but it's leading with the reinsurance value strategy, and under territories for medical practices, which is really my area of specialty in medical groups and medical doctors.
Yeah.
So the valuation conversation is very easy, even though you're not selling ancillary services. If you lead back to the point of being a giver and not a taker, if you lead your sales conversation with the fact of, do you know the value of, in your strategy on your valuation related to insurance and or what your gaps are, that's been very easy for me to go into my current network, open doors, and bring in ancillary services from there, which I think will end up being deeper into Growth Drive in 2026. But it's a very methodical system approach this year for me. I'm going to throw it to Stephen.
Good morning. Good morning. My biggest takeaway definitely was on what Mike said about the more immediate win. I know that especially at the summit, we talked a lot about having a very early quick win with our client. But it didn't actually occur to me because I've always been a very, far reaching delayed gratification carrot on a stick. Like I'm working for the long goal. But there aren't actually a ton of people like me. And thinking about it that way and getting that immediate quick win for our referral sources and giving back almost immediately is really powerful because then it allows you to be a giver that much faster. So that's really my biggest takeaway. And I'm probably going to throw it over to Ed.
Nice.
I guess if you reflect on the giver versus the taker methodology, the biggest challenge that I envision for 26 is to increase engagements with the givers. Because it seems every time I give them more help and assist them, as Eric has referenced, something happens. And I don't have to necessarily know what is going to happen as much as create the environment where they can get something from me because I took the time to encounter and bring it back to their attention that it's available. Because what happens is they're struggling doing things that I could provide to them on a service point of view with no fee, but just to make them be more valuable to their client. And I did that with one person over the last 2 months of last year, and I did not expect return. I did it graciously with a total giver mentality. And so I know that in the future I will get some opportunity to do some work with them, but it's already led to my addressing 3 other people that I should do that with that I haven't put the same effort into developing. And I think that's the problem. I haven't focused on developing the giver understanding of what I can give and help them with. I'll pass it over to Joe.
All right. So back to the videotape. So we help owners move from being the primary maker in the business to being the architect of a system that makes money value well them, right? So reduce the owner dependency tax, move from being a primary maker to the business being the architect. So often we talked about the overwhelming of the owner, right? So oftentimes we present it as if they're the one that has to do it. So we got to allow them to think through all the resources that are available to them. Is they don't have to be the doer, they can be the architect. And oftentimes as a entrepreneur moving from a growing the business less dependent on them, they have a hard time. Every single entrepreneur that I know always looks internally, how can we get things done with the internal team? And they get this whole mentality of like, we can't get that done because I don't know anybody in an organization today that can get that done. Our job is to teach them how to be more architect and create the plan and then hand it off to the team to figure out how to get done. So the doer mentality has done them well up to a point, but at some point we got to get them to reframe their way that they contribute value to the organization. So that's my takeaway today.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Well, guys, I think we made it around. We missed Mike and George because they both had to jump off before they got to give their takeaways, but lot of good stuff going on, a lot of good comments. So see you all next week.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, there you go.
Take care, guys.
Have a good year, guys.
Eric, take a look at that book.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See ya.